Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Top 8 Reasons to Switch from MDM to EMM. My name is Kayla Bittner, and I'll be your moderator today. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. This webinar is expected to last about 60 minutes and is in listen-only mode. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so if you have a question you'd like answered, please be sure to post it publicly in the Q&A panel at the bottom right corner of your screen. That way all of our panelists can see your question. We are recording today's session, and we'll make the link to the recording and slides available by email. So real quick, I just want to introduce today's speakers. Today we're joined by Brian Adams, John Nielsen, and Jimmy Stang from IBM, who will be discussing how to grow your MDM strategy to a holistic EMM program. Brian Adams is a sales manager joining IBM Mass 360 in 2011. He advises organizations on EMM best practices for a secure mobile solution. John Nielsen has been with Mass 360 for 12 years in a variety of customer-facing and product management roles, including managed VPN services, mobile security, and the Mass 360 MDM platform. Jimmy Stang is responsible for positioning, messaging, and go-to-market launches of our Mass 360 product. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and pass it over to Jimmy to kick it off with today's agenda. Jimmy?
Great. Thanks, Kayla. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. We have an exciting agenda today, and we have our experts here to talk about really the transition from MDM to EMM. So the agenda we're going to start off with is talk about mobile trends in the enterprise. A lot of fun facts and how neurotic we are with our mobile devices. So it's going to be some interesting things, and we're going to bucket it by devices, apps, and content, and how we really come to be in terms of mobile in the business. Then we can do top 8 reasons to switch from MDM to EMM, right? So I know some of the audience already have MDM solutions, and some are just trying to figure out whether they should go with MDM or maybe just go right to EMM. And we'll talk about differences about those two solutions, or really two mindsets today. Then John's going to be presenting a demo of our EMM platform, and then Brian's going to end off with our a refresher or a summary of IBM Mobile First Protect, which is basically Mass 360. So we are rebranding, where we were acquired by IBM last year, and our new name will be IBM Mobile First Protect. And again, that's what we used to call Mass 360. And at the very end, we're going to have a Q&A session, but please, ask your questions in the chat window or in the Q&A window, and we'll try to answer some along the way, as well as keep some at the very end. So we're going to start off with a poll question, right? Keep it interactive. Which MDM/EMM provider does your organization currently use today? I guess the choices are A, Mass 360 or IBM Mobile First Protect, B, AirWatch, C, MobileIron, D, Good Technology, E, Citrix, F, Microsoft, G, Other, or H, None. So please, in the lower right-hand corner, make your selection, and we're just going to jump right into mobile trends in the enterprise. So thank you again for your responses. So the way we're going to approach this, again, as I mentioned, is we're going to start off with mobile devices, right? We know they're essential for both business and our personal lives, right? Here's some fun facts around millennials and their smartphones. And as I was putting this together, really it applies to me as well. So I'm a Gen Xer, not a millennial, but really some of these stats really apply to me. So 87% have their smartphone at their side day or night. Okay, it's in my pocket. It's on my basically on nightstand when I go to bed. So yes, I mean that applies to me. 80% say that the first thing they do in the morning is reach for their smartphone. Okay, even this morning I reached for my smartphone to turn off my alarm. So it became both my alarm clock as well as my personal device. 78% spend over 2 hours a day using their smartphone. Okay, so that's a huge percentage. A lot of our time, almost 10% of our time spent on our smartphones. And if you look at some of the stats on the bottom, right, it talks about the trends of mobile devices, and where 87% of internet-enabled technology sales will just be mobile devices. That's basically smartphones and tablets. Really laptops, desktops, and other things pale in comparison in terms of sales especially when you think of it worldwide, where, some countries don't even have computers, in their homes. They just have their smartphones. And then, this is actually, this stat on the right, 46% say their smartphone is something they could not live without, right? So this is an American survey, and really, I'm curious to see, what that is for spouses, right? They couldn't, 46, basically almost half say they couldn't live without a smartphone, and it'll be interesting to see what other things people can't live without. So it just, this whole slide just tells you how important, mobile devices are in our lives today. So next, we have app explosion in the enterprise is here and now. Okay, so we're seeing this every day at IBM, where we see company after company taking advantage of mobile applications to transform their business. And not only just to provide email, right? I mean, that's really sort of the basic MDM, one of the first MDM sort of mobile application management use cases, but really to transform retail floor use cases in the warehouse, in the field, while say insurance providers providing a quote for a repair. This is happening all over, and really, what we see, with some of these stats, like in 2014, the overall mobile app usage grew 76%, right? This is both consumer and enterprise, but I would argue that this number is actually higher in the enterprise, right? It's really taking off, and we're seeing a lot more distribution and security and management of apps today. 8 to 15% of the, basically is the number of apps that the average enterprise has deployed to employees, right? This comes from Gartner, so this is what they see with their clients. And actually, I think that's low, right? I think that number is going to really shoot up this year and next year, where those 8 or 15 apps could be CRM apps, right? They could be email apps. They could be some doc sharing apps. What we're seeing today is more really specific work apps that these enterprises, these organizations are building themselves, rather than taking advantage of what's in the public app store. They're building it themselves, and they're deploying it, right? They're basically taking processes that they've had, maybe like legacy web apps, and making it on a mobile device and making it easier to be mobile and be accessed anywhere. So we're seeing a lot more effort in that, what we call sort of application management, and we're expecting to see more even in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
however,
to add some quick
Brian.
color here, I talk to customers every day, and the conversations with customers, 3, 4 years ago, even 2 years ago was, how do I get email, contacts, calendars on these devices? How do I push down basic things like Wi-Fi, right? That was the project scope. But now, I mean, it's completely driven around applications, and that's everything from, hey, we have a specific application that we need to get on BYOD devices to, hey, we have this one application, and this tablet that we have is going to be a single-use device for this specific application. So the use cases and the needs for customers in the past were all about email, which was originally the killer app. Now it's, specific applications as businesses look for mobile to be really more of a profit center instead of a cost center.
Great. Thanks, Brian. And what we're seeing is, with all these apps that we're distributing, or actually just, downloading from the app stores, 75% of mobile security breaches are through apps these days. I think initially we've seen them through, say, text messaging or phishing scams, things like that. But nowadays, with all these mobile apps published on, third-party websites, or even on the official websites, there's potential for basically mobile risks, right? Malware, viruses, Trojans that can get through, and that's what we're starting to see more and more so with these hackers that are targeting our devices. Okay, so from a content standpoint, what we call documents, files, and how we collaborate with our with our colleagues. What we're seeing is 59% of IT allow employees to share and collaborate documents if the company provides the mobile device. Okay, that's actually a low number, right? What that's saying is 41% won't even do it or won't even provide the apps, even if it was a corporate-owned device, right? So that's really just starting to take off. We're seeing more demand for it, and what's more interesting is that 38% will allow it on a BYOD device, right? A personal device. And what that tells you is that there's going to be some shadow IT here. users are going to get, the content that they need, the documents, the, presentations that they need to manipulate and bring to their clients, whether or not, IT provides them with the solution, a secure solution. So that tells you that, that demand is surging. IT is trying to get on board. If you see some of the stats on the bottom, 48% have a clear policy around, file sharing, and really only 49% have some clear visibility of what's going on with file sharing on their employees' devices. So we think this area is maturing, right? It's a growing need. However, I think IT is still trying to figure out how do I get, these files, these, these presentations into people's hands without sacrificing security. So analysts, they see big things for mobile in the enterprise. Gartner came out with their Magic Quadrant literally 3 weeks ago, and they're basically saying that enterprise mobility management, which is EMM, is the glue for mobile in the enterprise, right? It's the starting point, and really they see it as a way to start the mobile journey with EMM. Right? You have other analysts like Ovum, Forrester, and IDC weighing in as well. For Ovum, they're saying it's high on the list of priorities for all CIOs in terms of enterprise mobility, right? And Forrester is saying, enterprise mobility is the new systems of engagement, right? And also, so it's that sort of that central portal, central hub for all their IT work, right? Sort of that mobile-first idea. But what it's doing is it's not just empowering employees, it's empowering customers and partners, and you can say contractors and consultants as well, by providing really all this information on a mobile device. And then IDC says 25% of the software budget is IT software budget will be basically dedicated to mobile app development. Okay, so we talked about sort of mobile apps being the here and now, and we're seeing it more and more in terms of how IT budgets coming through year after year. So just to sort of summarize all of what we've seen in these mobile trends, right? What we're saying is mobile is strategic for business, right? It provides a better user as well as a customer experience, right? It's not just for your employees or your colleagues. It's actually for the customer as well. So again, all these different use cases where you can break lines at hotels, you can check inventory on the retail floor, really provide sort of those really interesting use cases we see day in and day out, where it's not just email access or just getting access to a document. It's much more than that. Mobile changes the way people work. I'm not sure you see this in your organization, but at IBM, we see a lot of change in how we work today. We're not tied to our desks anymore, right? A lot of our colleagues actually work on the road or from home, right? And it's really changes the environment, changes the dynamic you have with your colleagues. So it makes things, where, good or bad, you're available 24/7, literally. But mobile, creates risk of company data. So we know that, right? Mobile apps, the loss of a mobile device, someone jailbreaks or roots their device, it's always a challenge to manage these compromised devices when they do occur. And we know mobile is complex and challenging to manage. You may be, in your journey now trying to figure out, whether you have an MDM product or not, right? You're mixing both personal and work data on the same device. Right? There's always a concern that some of that data is going to be leaked to the general public, and that's especially in highly regulated industries. You have regulations and compliance rules you have to abide by. Right? Mobile lives outside your perimeter. IT spends years protecting their systems, right? Protecting their data centers, and now you have these mobile devices with a lot of really access to enterprise data and information. So, what type of, security layers can you put on to a mobile device to make sure that you have control, you have access, you have security on these devices? And the last is mobile is fast-paced and multi-platform. It's hard to keep up with the change that's happening in this industry. iOS 9 is coming out this summer. Literally in July, right? The beta is going to be available. Windows 10 is coming out on July 29th, right? Android M is coming out a little bit after. So all this change is happening. How do you manage all this, with the limited resources that you have today? So this is what we see IT and security pros saying around really managing devices, apps, and content. CIO, their priorities are maximizing productivity, right? How do I, manage the rapid deployment of devices in a cost-effective way, to sales, to finance, to the whole organization, right? How do we enable my workforce to get the right apps, right, with the right user experience at the right time? And how do I tie into all my existing assets that I have, all the systems I have for email, for, directory services, for, file sync and share? How do I make sure that all that money I spent to install those, how can I mobilize them, right? So from a CISO perspective, they're looking to amplify protection. They want to increase the levels of security they have, especially around mobile, right? So how do I ensure all devices accessing the network are secured and encrypted, right? How do we show that we're compliant with our policies and the industry regulations in our vertical and in our industry? And then how do I ensure authorized access to to the corporate content in their back-end systems, right? How do I make sure that they're authorized and authenticated to get there? So I'm going to go into the top 8 reasons to switch from MDM to EMM. Again, some of you will be jumping right into EMM, so that's a great time for you. Actually, that's a much simpler process than what it used to be in the past. So one of the first. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Real quick here, and not to interrupt you and take away from this, but just going back to the last slide, one of the things that I hear most from customers is with a project here, it really comes about culture, right? If you sum up kind of the thoughts from the CIO and the thoughts from the CISO, it's how do we increase productivity with end users on mobile devices while still maintaining the security that's so important to the organization, especially in the light of the breaches at Target to the recent breaches with the federal government. So it becomes almost this weird cultural conversation where we need productivity. I need folks to be able to be productive on the mobile devices. Going back to what we saw from the millennial stats, everyone's using them every day. We want to make sure they can get work done on it because that's how their brains are already geared. But at the same time, we need to protect our data. So I think if you haven't used a solution before, or if you're moving from MDM to EMM, if you kind of keep that combination of productivity and protection in mind, not only when you're thinking about this, but also through the rest of the webinar, I think it really starts to make sure that the juices are churning into what makes sense for our organization from both a security and a productivity standpoint. I think this slide, Jimmy, and kind of the way you described it, taking the example of a CIO and a CISO, does a great job of providing some good detail there. So I always like to kind of call that out whenever that conversation comes up.
All right, thanks, Brian. Appreciate really amplifying the message there with that slide. So let's talk about, again, the top 8 reasons to switch from MDM to EMM. So the first one is, use a single platform to manage devices, apps, and content. So if you started off with MDM, that means you're really managing, devices, deploying them in the enterprise, and maybe doing some email access control, right? But, these days, they're trying to, IT administrators are trying to basically cover a number of bases, right? All these use cases coming from lines of businesses around, and we need to get the latest CRM app to our sales guys. We need to get the latest presentation to the marketing folks, that's at an event without emailing it, right? So all these use cases are coming, right? And whether you need to bolt on a MAM solution, a mobile application management solution, or a content management solution, it really is inefficient and takes a lot of work in order to do so. You have to manage all these different portals, different user interfaces, and then what your users will see will be different as well. So really having a single platform that can manage all these is really important when you go from MDM to EMM. Right? Also, integration with existing enterprise systems and resources. So with MDM, you pretty much had the sort of the top and the right-hand sides of this slide, right? So you have email with Exchange and Office 365 and Lotus and others, right? And you have maybe integration with your Active Directory and your directory services as well as certificates. But what we're seeing today with EMM is a lot more than that, right? Tapping into SharePoint, Box, IBM Connection, all of these sort of document sharing, document repositories that you have invested in, millions of dollars probably in with your enterprise. And then even going further than that, tapping into your intranets, right? All your Windows file share network folders, your legacy web apps, your databases in the back end. And doing so in a sort of a seamless, easy way is really important. And I think that's what we're seeing from, going from MDM to EMM is that you're opening up many more of your systems to your users, and they're making them basically more productive. The third reason you want to, because you have a lot, again, as I mentioned earlier, you have a lot more use cases you have to deal with, right? There's all these users from, different departments, different regions around the world, and you can't have sort of a one-size-fits-all policy or one-size-fits-all platform to all these different users, right? So if you think about it, you have BYOD, you have corporate-owned devices, you have kiosk mode on the, say, on the retail floor. You have all these public-private apps you try to distribute. You're thinking about, file, sync, and share for your executives. You have malware protection that you need, especially in, some countries around the world. So all these you have to consider, and, does your MDM, solution be able to handle all these today, right? So all these different use cases, you're going to have to look into sort of an enterprise mobility management solution rather than a device management solution. Then we have, secure work data and personal privacy with a native experience. So this is around containerization of corporate data, right? Keeping it separate from and commingled with personal data. So if you think about it today, you can have your native mail app, email app, but you can get Gmail, your Yahoo Mail, and that's going to be basically mingled with your, Exchange Mail or your, basically Notes Traveler Mail. Are you comfortable with that? And really the best way to separate that is through a container, and that's what we have with Mass 360 as well. So you can see, use basically separation of email, calendar, contacts, documents, even web browsing that's separate from the native apps, personal apps that's on personal devices today. So the fifth point is automate your compliance rules and enforcement. So MDM solutions do have some of this today, right, around automation. However, what we're talking about more is as you go down the road of away from devices to apps, to content, to data. Are those compliance rules, are those policies available to get you there, to be able to control all of that? Are there separate systems you have to think about for, again, if you have a separate system for mobile application management, how easy is that to incorporate into all your security policies? Is there a separate policy? So what we're talking about is really a single policy, a single set of compliance rules that will automate real-time actions, right? So, and also, we have something in Mass 360 where we call persona policies, where those policies go across, all the types of devices your users have. So you can think of our persona policies as user policies. They're not device-centric policies, and they apply to, again, across the board, devices, apps, and content. So they're great. You can do it as a central point, and we try to make it super easy to basically allow you to secure your, your mobile assets. Number 6, basically the support for new OS and platform features, right? With iOS 9 coming, Android M, and Windows 10, as I mentioned earlier. Right? It's super difficult to keep up with with all of these changes in the environment. So MDM, that's typically what we do. We try to keep up with them, but with, really the impact on apps, the impact on our secure document sharing, on our containers, right? Does your MDM system, are they able to keep up, especially if it's on-prem? Your mobile apps are they going to be broken when you distribute them and won't be able to be used by your basically by your employees? So a lot of considerations when you're thinking about going from MDM to EMM is really the whole spectrum of devices, apps, and content, and all the impact these sort of new OSs have on those systems. So you really need to consider that when you're choosing a provider. Number 7 right, beyond MDM, you have all these, sort of mobile security threats, in the industry today. So you have mobile malware, right? Malware we see with, especially with mobile apps. And I want to show you a quick, sort of super simple diagram or workflow we have with Mass 360 and our basically threat management product. So, what we have is, if you're enrolling a new device, or if you have a device already with Mass 360, what we do is install basically the Mass 360 app with trusteer policies, our threat management policies embedded in, right? If you already have, again, a mobile device with Mass 360, all that is a refresh of our policies. Very simple. You don't need to re-enroll any of your devices. Then what we do is we tap into the trusteer mobile risk engine and provide updates to the device, to basically our software with malware definitions, some new jailbreak and root checks, as well as suspicious apps that they've uncovered basically in near real time. And then if basically mobile malware is detected or if a device is jailbroken or rooted, right, it basically communicates with our Mass 360 product, right? And our Mass 360 product, applies those enforcement and remediation actions to that device in basically near real time. You can even uninstall an app if it's detected to have malware. So really super simple way of just showing you of what we can, basically what EMM can do today beyond MDM. Last thing I want to talk about is really scalability. How we scale from what we see today with MDM to basically, mobility throughout your organization. So like I would say 3 years ago, we saw executives, wanting their own devices, right? They want to bring their own devices, or at least they want IT to buy their, basically a new iPad, a new iPhone, or Android device. So that's sort of what we see as the starting point, with BYOD and corporate. But now we're starting to see, really much mobility throughout the organization. So starting with usually sales, getting them the apps they need, and making sure that you have a whole bunch of different support for multi-OSs. Then apps and content throughout, operations, sales, field service, and scaling up not just different use cases, but in quantity. Think about, executives. You start off with 10 devices, 20 devices, but now you're going into hundreds or thousands of devices worldwide. And, you have to think about whether your MDM solution can scale up to those, basically those use cases, as well as to those number of users you have in there. So those are really, reasons to switch from MDM to EMM, and really, especially this use case, where we're seeing all these, organizations, trying to transform their business processes, their customer service. It's becoming more and more of a, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution anymore. You have to be able to be flexible enough to address all our use cases. So what I'm going to do is, have John get ready for a demo of Mass 360 and IBM Mobile First Protect. Before we do that, we have a quick poll question. So what solutions are you most interested in implementing for your organization's mobile strategy? So here you can check all that apply. So A is mobile device management, MDM. B is mobile app management, MAM, that's what we call it. C is mobile content management and collaboration. D is container solutions that we talked about. And E is mobile threat management. So which ones are you most interested in implementing? Or even those that you have implemented. If you can please check the box. And in a couple of seconds, you'll see the results. But again, please wait for John's demo. And if you have any questions, use the Q&A window in the lower right. Okay, so I think the poll questions are coming back, or the answers are coming back.
Yep, good. We're just going to have about 10 seconds here to tabulate the data, and then I'll share the results.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Brian, what do you see with our customer base today, or the conversations you have with customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the majority of it starts with mobile device management, but then it's always one of the other four. Hey, we need MDM and applications, or we need MDM and content, or we need MDM and a containerized solution. So it's usually kind of 1 plus 1. Because that's really when you start to get into the specific use cases, BYO versus pushing down enterprise applications versus, hey, I need to be able to access and edit documents on devices. So it's kind of like a 1 plus 1 scenario that we see here. So I think we'll see the majority of MDM, and then I think it will be kind of split evenly between the rest of them. And then I think we'll also possibly see maybe mobile threat management with some good impact as well, too, as there's constantly articles coming out every single day about various malware threats.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
and we're certainly seeing use cases where MDM is not a requirement, whether it's a contractor device, a consumer device, and things like that. So it'll be interesting on how many checkboxes do not include the base MDM services also.
yeah, that's a good point. EMM is not, you don't need to have MDM and EMM as well. So, but I think Brian is right. I mean, if you look at the poll results, MDM is the sort of the foundational piece I think most people are looking at. And all the others, and what's interesting is mobile threat management is high up on the list. But all the others, they do have different use cases, and we'll see, I guess, more of that as this sort of this industry matures. So John, take it away. You have control.
Great, thanks, guys. So what we actually wanted to do here is give the folks on the phone a high-level overview of our enterprise mobility management platform, Mobile First Protect. And this will include not only the administrative portal and side of the house, but also what your end users would actually see on their device when we talk about securing content, applications from a container perspective and from a traditional MDM perspective. So what you're actually seeing here is the Mobile First Protect portal. And this portal basically gives your administrative team an umbrella view across all of the different components that are being managed by the platform, whether those are devices, users from an identity and authentication perspective, applications from a push and security perspective, or content from a management perspective. This is really your administrator's quick view into those components. Now, you'll notice a couple key items here on the home page, one of which is what we call our quick search bar. And what I can basically do is type in any term here, and from an operational perspective, I'll be able to immediately see what aspects of the platform are returned based on that query. So you'll notice if I type in IBM, I see a number of devices, and I have the ability to take quick action on those devices if needed. Here are a number of users that I can manage from an identity and authentication perspective. Here are applications that meet that search criteria. I can quickly drill down into those apps, distribute those apps, secure those apps if needed. And here's some content. So again, very easy from a cross-use case perspective, whether it's devices, users, applications, or docs, to really take action from within the Mass 360 platform. One of the other key components is what we call My Alert Center. And this is a real-time view into what information is important for your administrative team. And this crosses a number of the different concepts that Jimmy talked about earlier, whether it's mobile threat management, how many of my devices have known malware installed, whether it's traditional MDM security, such as how many devices are jailbroken or rooted, or how many devices have location services disabled, or more advanced concepts such as geofencing, and things like that, or telecom expense management when tracking data usage on these devices. So as you can see here, these live tiles are fully customizable. You can determine which ones are important to you and create those, and you can really gain a quick insight into your environment in a very quick way. Now, one of the other key components Jimmy mentioned was the concept around zero-day support. And as you'll see here, in this production environment, this isn't stage data, we actually have a couple devices running iOS 9. I can very simply click down into these devices, see which devices are on that beta version of software. I have the ability to drill down into those devices and take all of your traditional MDM actions if needed. So if I go ahead and drill down into Norton's iPad, you'll see this is your operational view for that particular device. I have a large number of summary items I can drill down into, whether it's security related, app related, content related. But I also have the ability to take my traditional real-time action, lock, reset passcode, and so on and so forth. So very easy to ensure that your operational folks have the ability to quickly manage and take action on devices, regardless of if that's a operating system that in this case is a couple months away. One other quick concept I wanted to mention was the concept around the threat management or mobile security threat management. And what I'm basically going to do is drill down into this Android device where there was actually malware detected. So in this case, a couple applications have been discovered to have known malware installed. And this is really crosses two of the concepts Jimmy talked about, not only the detection of the compliance violation, but also the ability to define real-time compliance rules to automate action on devices that are deemed in violation for any reason. Other examples of violations could be disallowed OS versions, encryption being disabled on devices, blacklisted, whitelisted applications, or unknown applications that have been pushed down from unknown app stores. But basically, this device is an example where this device is in violation, and IT can determine what will automatically happen. Will we message the user? Will we message IT? Will we wipe the device? Will we remove access to the container? So a lot of capabilities here from an automation perspective cross the traditional device security, app security, and content security umbrellas. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do now is switch over to an end user view. And this is basically a iPad that has been enrolled and managed with Mass 360. You'll notice a number of icons here on the user's dashboard. Basically a corporate app catalog, the Mass 360 container, the Mass 360 browser, and the Mass 360 content editor. Starting with the app catalog, when we talk about traditional MAM workflows, this is basically a way for your corporate IT team to create a on-device corporate app catalog. So basically a way for your teams within your enterprise to push applications to devices. Those applications can be single applications, public applications, private applications. Users have the ability to look at highlighted applications. So let's say, for example, I want to look at my Office apps. I can go ahead and install the apps that I'm interested in, or you know what? I can go ahead and click Get All, and all of these apps will start installing on my device in real time. So the ability for enterprises to create that corporate app store and really push and secure those applications down to their users' devices is very important. In addition to the app catalog, and you'll notice here's my Microsoft apps are starting to install. In addition to the app catalog, we have the Mass 360 container. Now, the Mass 360 container is a component of the software that really allows IT to determine how sensitive content is handled on that device. So you'll notice as I launch the Mass 360 container, and the screen's taking a little bit to update, but as I launch the Mass 360 container, I'm prompted with a passcode. That is the passcode the user requires to enter to access that corporate or sensitive information on that device that's fully encrypted outside of the operating system encryption. So you'll notice as I enter this dashboard, I'm presented with what we call the Launchpad. And this Launchpad is really a view into all of the different pieces of software on the device that my company has exposed to me and is taking security policy on. So whether that's traditional email calendar contacts, we have our document container here we'll look at, but also third-party apps that we've applied security policy to. And when I say security policy, that could be traditional DLP type policy, preventing cut, copy, and paste, preventing screenshots, preventing printing over the air, to more advanced concepts around preventing open-in and applying extra layers of data encryption to that content. So you'll see a couple applications down here from an IBM perspective. If I go ahead and launch my email container, for example, this is access to my corporate email regardless of what the backend is. It could be Office 365, it could be IBM Traveler or IBM Notes or even Exchange. But this is basically access to that content in a secure fashion. So again, the concepts of cut, copy, and paste and policy can be determined based on what your IT policy is. So for example, here's an email I received with a couple pieces of information, a couple attachments. I'm going to go ahead and open this PDF file. I have the ability to open and view this PDF file within the container. Again, it's fully secured based on IT policy. And I have a couple actions in terms of what I want to do with this content. So I'm actually going to download this content into my personal document file, and we'll go back to that in a minute. So basically, I'm basically saving this file locally. I also have the ability, based on what IT has chosen to expose, to open this content in third-party applications that are secured by Mastery 60, edit this content, or even annotate this content. So what I'm going to do is go back to our dashboard and open up our doc viewer. And this doc container is basically an access container for users to access corporate content. Now, that content can be in a number of different repositories. It could be content that's distributed through the Mastery 60 cloud by my corporation. So you'll notice here are a number of folders, and here is a number of pieces of content that I have access to from a push perspective. I also have the concept of My Documents. And My Documents is basically your file sync and share capabilities within the Mastery 60 cloud. So you'll notice here's that IBM security doc that I just downloaded from my email. I have the ability, based on policy, to take action on this doc. I can open it in a third-party approved program. So you'll notice I have the ability to open this in Outlook or Connections or OneDrive. I do not have the ability to open this in other applications such as Evernote or Dropbox because they're unmanaged and blacklisted. So it's up to IT to determine which applications that content can be opened in within the platform. In addition to that, from a file sync and share perspective, I have the ability to generate a link. And I can share that link with users via email or directly, so users within my organization can gain access to that content from a collaboration perspective. So a number of different ways to securely share that content to users within the organization or even outside of the organization if the use case needs that. In addition to the Mastery 60 cloud repositories, you can also see a number of other repositories configured that I have access to, whether they're public cloud repositories such as Dropbox, Google Drive, or OneDrive, or behind the firewall repositories such as SharePoint or Windows File Share. The Mastery 60 platform has a concept called the Enterprise Gateway, which essentially allows users to gain access to behind the firewall content with single sign-on in a secure fashion. So I am actually browsing a file share, a Windows file share, that is behind my firewall that I would not have access to without using a traditional VPN. Again, fully automated and very easy for users to work with. In addition to the content management concepts, one of the other key concepts that Jimmy mentioned was browsers. So the ability to not only secure communication from the device to web applications that are behind a corporation's firewall, but also perform things like actions such as web filtering and URL filtering on the devices. So once I authenticate here, basically using the MAS 360 browser, I will have access to all of the content that is published by my corporation behind the firewall. So you can see my corporation push me a home page, they push me a number of bookmarks, some of those are work bookmarks. I can get to my SharePoint repositories that aren't traditionally publicly available. I can get to my internal ticketing systems, which in normal cases from a mobile device I would not have access to from outside of my firewall. So very robust in terms of determining not only what category sites users can get to from a public perspective, block social media or block job search websites, but also provide access to internal behind the firewall resources, again, without the use of a full device VPN or any other third-party VPN devices. Okay, so that's a high-level view of some of the container and EMM options on the device side. We talked about app management, content management, containers at a very high level. Again, send your questions through the chat. I know we went through this in a very short period of time, but we will certainly answer what we can.
Hey, John, I have a quick question in Q&A. So is the MAS 360 container login tied to, or can be tied to Active Directory?
Absolutely. So when I first launched the MAS 360 container, you'll notice that I was prompted for a PIN and passcode. That is fully customizable in terms of what authentication method you want to use. It could be a simple PIN, a complex PIN, or it could be tied to your Active Directory through our cloud integration. That's correct.
Okay, great. So we're going to turn it over to Brian now to give just an overview of IBM Mobile First Protect Mass 360.
Yep. Thanks, John. As always, great work there. So yeah, just as we kind of get away from the demo, I wanted to kind of take a step back and kind of talk a little bit more about the journey to EMM and where IBM really sees mobile security. So, as we look at the point of view we have here at IBM as it relates to mobile, the mission we have is simple, right? We're trying to enable apps and content with trust on any device, anytime, anywhere, right? Just how consumers are using these devices now, anytime, anywhere, any device, that's the goal here when it comes to our vision for mobile. And really the way that we do that is by delivering mobile enablement security for the way people work and how they collaborate with their colleagues and customers. And I'll kind of explain that a little bit here as we move on. Right? And how that's accomplished is really through the 4 pillars that we have here for our mobile security framework as we look to really deliver a comprehensive mobile security strategy. So as we look at the 4 pillars here, you have the device, the mobile applications that are part of it, safeguarding applications and data. Then you have the secure content and collaboration, and finally managing access and fraud. Now there's a whole IBM portfolio, and we'll highlight a couple of these in the next few slides that combine into this. But if you just take these 4 pillars that we discussed today, you go back to what Jimmy said, you go back to what John said, you can see much of this. Managing access and fraud, the question about how the PIN and passcode relating that back to AD on the container. John talking about accessing documents, editing documents with content and collaboration. Safeguarding applications and data. We talked about the applications that are safeguarded from the application catalog, the security that we can wrap around it, and then even going back to protecting devices. A lot of things that we've talked about already with the features and functions made available to us via the MAS 360 portal. So really, I think by addressing all 4 of these, whether you're leveraging just the IBM Mobile First Protect, the MAS 360 product, or of course the other products that IBM brings to the table from mobile security, you really need to address all 4 of these if you're looking for kind of a true mobile security framework here. And as we go to specifically how this relates to IBM Mobile First Protect, you'll see there's kind of 5 aspects or 5 product features here. And John talked about a lot of these, and we referenced a few of these during the poll question here, but it's really breaking down into 5 key components. Advanced mobility management, our secure container, or what we call our secure productivity suite, secure document sharing for content collaboration, the mobile enterprise gateway, right, accessing internal resources without a firewall, whether that's internet sites, document repositories, or even applications that you're building and buying that need access to resources behind the firewall. And finally, the mobile threat management for malware protection. And going back to John's point as we went through some of the poll questions, I think historically a lot of people have focused just on, the MDM, or what we call our advanced management, but many of these products can be shown as standalone items to fit specific use cases and needs within an organization. Whether it's, hey, this device is only going to be used for browsing and we need URL filtering. Perhaps maybe this is a device owned by a contractor. We don't want to manage this full device. We just want a secure container where they can get access to the corporate resources. So really lots of flexibility here so that not only can we meet the needs of, specific use cases within an organization, but all the various organizations and the different needs. Definitely a solution here that we can work with you to create one that fits your environment exactly. And, with that, again, it's the combination of security and productivity. So as we get back into the productivity conversation, it's about unleashing that end-user productivity. But doing so in a way that you also have the security that the organization needs. So, a secure PIM, again, containerizing the email, the contacts, the calendars, giving access to that in a secure container where you don't have, the work and play intermingling. The secure browser, whether you're using that to access internal resources or just have URL filtering so individuals are using these devices as they should be. Application security and management, and of course, file sync and share. So again, a lot of things that you saw during John's demonstration, a lot of things that we talked about on the reasons to move from MDM to EMM. But the idea being here is, with IBM Mobile First Protect, you can unleash end user productivity while still creating that, trusted workplace and it's not like we're creating a workplace that's isolating the rest of the environment. You know, we're integrating into existing resources you have, whether that's supporting Microsoft products like John showed, Google products like Google Apps, and of course all the various IBM products that we can bring to the table. And as we're talking about the IBM products here, you know, in order to find those 4 pillars and really build a robust mobile security platform, you know, it's really important you start to look at the other offerings that IBM can bring to the table, right? So you have IBM Mobile First Protect, the Mass 360 platform on the left. We're going to do the policy compliance, encrypting these devices, data protection, authenticating and restrictions to access resources, containerization, device wipe and quarantine. But, you know, that added together with things like mobile threat management, which we talked about, that adding together with QRadar, risk and event management detection, ISAM, Big Fix for endpoint management, Guardian for data security, or even WorkLight for application building and security, right? It's that added together that really gives you those 4 pillars of mobility security that you're looking for here. So not going to go into full detail regarding all of these IBM products, but absolutely a synergy here as we look at the entire mobile first platform and how it relates specifically to the IBM mobile first, the IBM security team. So when looking to switch from MDM to EMM, you know, why MAS 360, why IBM Mobile First Protect? Really broken down into 3 basic things here. Number 1, complete management. So as you saw in John's demonstration, we have complete management of these devices, everything from managing the devices to the apps that resides on it to the content, and all of it is done from one single platform. John really nailed it just in the example of the search bar. Start typing in a full characters and you have full access and visibility into your entire environment from one single cloud-based platform, or, you know, even an on-premise platform for certain customers. Then the scalability, right? And I look at scalability kind of 2 different ways here. Number 1, the ability to scale up the various features and functions. As that may change over time, right? Maybe it starts with a basic device management, maybe it starts with a basic containerization, and then moves up into, you know, integration and malware protection. So that one aspect of scalability. But the second axis of scalability, and Jimmy kind of referenced this during the, you know, the 8 things or the 8 reasons why to switch, scaling across organizations. Right, the scalability that's available with IBM Mobile First Protect. And then finally, the integration. And I think integration is a really important conversation when you go from MDM to EMM. When you think about MDM, it was, okay, I have these devices, I need to make sure we can lock them, need to make sure we can locate them, put some basic policies, maybe even push down some basic applications. But with EMM, it's about the integration that we can bring to the table. How does this integrate into what I'm doing today with content? How does this integrate into my existing resources? How does this integrate into the applications that we use today, whether they're legacy web-based applications or new applications that you're building for mobile specifically? How does that integrate together? So as you journey from MDM to EMM, or as you start your journey in EMM, think strategically about the integration, and I think you'll continue to come back to IBM Mobile First Protect and MAS 360 as the integration that we can provide today, and the ease of that integration is truly amazing. So I think the other reason, too, that we see a lot of customers here joining IBM Mobile First Protect is our commitment to customer success. So I always like to try to put things in perspective, and I think the best way to use that is just referencing a couple use cases. So going back to the conversation about security and productivity, 2 use cases here, one focusing on productivity, one focusing on mobile security. If we start with mobile productivity on the left here, right, we have a leading gaming and entertainment company. So, you know, think of the hotels in Vegas there. And what they've been able to do here is using a single manage app, they've actually been able to increase delivery time for food and drinks to customers over 80%. Right? So just by putting a tablet managed by MAS 360 with a single managed application, they've been able to increase the productivity of servers, of food runners, of those running the cash registers by over 80%. Now, combine that not only with revenue from food and drink, but also when we're talking about a gaming organization and an entertainment company, what else is coming along with it, right? The tickets that they're purchasing to go to events there, the gambling that's going along with it. So just by leveraging mobile and leveraging a solution like MAS 360 and IBM Mobile First Protect, they've been able to increase their business with remarkable numbers. Going to the right, in mobile security, right, a large U.S. children's hospital here on the East Coast protects over 3,000 mobile devices with IBM Mobile First Protect, right, ensuring HIPAA compliance, protection of personally identifiable information, which is extremely important in children. And they were able to do all of this and integrate with existing servers in just 90 minutes, right? So not only are we able to secure these devices, but able to do so quickly and easily, going back to the conversation we had about scalability and the ability to scale quickly across organizations. So two really great examples on opposite end of the spectrums from productivity and security, but really just shows you the power of the IBM Mobile First Protect platform. And right, I could stand here all day, Jimmy could, John could, you know, talking about how great the solution is. But I think it's great to kind of take a look at the industry analysts and what they're saying about our solution, right? IBM has been a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for over 4 years, constantly named best in class for cloud among EMM vendors. Forrester, again, a leader in their annual report, ranked highest in the current offering. IDC, again, a leader. Infotech, a champion, highest score. So we're not the only ones out there preaching, you know, the benefits of IBM Mobile First Protect. And if you guys have any relations with these industry analysts and you're starting the journey from MDM to EMM, or you're looking into EMM in the first time, you know, pick up the phone and ask them about MAS 360 and what we can bring to the table. I'm very confident they're going to have some really nice things to say about us. Or instead of doing that, you could just try it out for yourself. So you can actually get started now with MAS 360. We actually do have, you know, instant access to a fully functioning 30-day trial. Pretty much everything John showed you, you can try, you can integrate, you can enroll devices, really no limits there. It's easy to set up and configure in minutes, and you can be up and running and managing your mobile devices in no time. So absolutely recommend you guys get your feet wet, go to mas360.com, click the big green button, get started now, and you can be enrolling your devices in just several minutes here. So that wraps up my portion. Definitely want to make sure we open up some time here for questions and also kind of check through some of the Q&A that exists here today.
Great. Thanks, Brian. We're going to ask one of the first questions. So what features and go-to-market advantages do you have over the other Gartner Magic Quadrant leaders for EMM? So I think actually Brian had a really good slide on it, and we can quickly show that. Let me go back. So basically, one of the things that we see is, Gartner just came out with their Magic Quadrant for EMM, and we were noted, and we can quote that we're the best-in-class cloud vendor in this space. That means a lot of different things, right? So it means, you can get instant access to it, so it's really easy to, to experience it. Also, it means that it really can scale up to your organization, to your environment, to all the departments that you need to manage. It makes it super easy to basically incorporate our solution into your work processes. So really, that sort of speaks a lot of different nuances there, but it speaks a lot about how, simple it is to scale up and grow with MAS 360. Also, integration. So we have a lot of integration, and the reason why we do a lot of integration is because, we have a really comprehensive and robust platform around devices, apps, content, data in general, right? So we're a true, one-stop shop for enterprise mobility management. And, integrating to all those existing, infrastructures, systems that you have, we make it really simple to do as well. So, if you use our cloud extender technology, use our gateway, we architected it so that we can really tie into those systems and get the information to basically to your mobile users. So those are just some reasons. Obviously we can do more. Please have a conversation with us. We can address more of your questions there. Okay. So any other questions? John, you see?
And just real quick, gentlemen, we want to break. It is the top of the hour, so folks, if you have to leave, we understand, but we are going to stay on here for at least 5 more minutes and answer your questions. So before you go, I just want to remind you that you will be receiving an email that will provide you access to the recording and slides for today's event. That way you can review anything you missed or share it with others. So thank you to our presenters, and thank you everyone for joining. And stay on if you can. We'll answer your questions for the next 5 minutes or so. Thank you.
Yeah, Jimmy, so one of the questions I see is around the distribution of non-traditional mobile apps, so pushing applications to Windows laptops or OS X laptops. That is available. That's not something I showed through the demo, but Mass 360 does support distribution of not only iTunes, Google Play, Windows Phone market applications, but also traditional software distribution workflows around distributing packages, whether they're executable files, MSI files, Mac install files, via the platform, via the cloud also. So, yep, definitely supported. Another question I see is, how does Mass 360 protect the user from abuse or spying from the administrator through the admin platform? And that's a really good question. So one of the features of the platform during device enrollment is users can optionally be asked device ownership details. Is this device that they're enrolling a corporate-owned asset? Is it an employee-owned asset? Is it a corporate shared asset? Or is it even unknown? Now, those choices can be configured by IT in terms of what device types and what users are allowed to make those selections. But in any event, administrators can define what we call privacy settings within the platform. And what privacy settings mean is basically you can limit the administrative view into personally identifiable information on devices based on ownership. So for example, if the device is an employee-owned asset, do not show the personal app inventory. Do not show the location of that device. Do not show the connected IP or any of those items that can be deemed PII or personally identified information. When you're hiding that information, you would still see the corporate managed information. So for example, if IT pushes an application to that device, that application is deemed a managed app, so IT would have visibility into it, but they won't see my personal healthcare applications or my personal banking applications or anything like that. So it's very easy within the platform to define those privacy policies, which determine what pieces of information about a device, about a user that your IT team can actually see. And taking that the next step further, you can also define the roles, rights, and responsibilities of your individual administrators of the platform. So if you want to give your level 1 help desk folks read-only access to certain information only, you can also filter it that way.
Okay, another question we have is, okay, looks like one of our customers has Mass 360 already. How do we, move from MDM to EMM? And do we just install Trusteer? So quickly we can answer that. So really, moving from MDM to EMM is really easy with if you have Mass 360 already. You just need to talk to basically your account executive and customer support, and what they'll do is literally just turn it on for you in the back end, and you should be able to do things like, again, distribute apps. If you don't have MAM, for example, deploy the container solutions simply right from your portal. Again, if you don't have that now. And if you want to install threat management, all that is we just need to turn it on, and you just need to add it as part of your policy. You don't have to re-enroll any device. The new Trusteer policies, the new threat management policies will be really sent down right to your device silently. So it's really straightforward to move from MDM, which you may have today, to really all the other aspects of enterprise mobility management.
I think we have time for maybe one more. There's a question in here around Apple Volume Purchase Program and whether or not that's supported through the platform. And the answer is yes, absolutely it is. So Mass 360 will integrate with Apple's deployment programs, whether that's VPP as the question apps or even other programs such as the Device Enrollment Program or DEP. And we can integrate with the VPP Volume Purchase, either the legacy version, which is kind of spreadsheet and redemption code based, or the newer version of VPP, which is integrated via tokens and platform integration with the Apple side. So fully supported for public apps, for B2B apps from an Apple perspective.
All right, well, that about wraps it up for today. So thank you, John, Jimmy, and Brian for your presentation today, and thank you everyone for sticking around. We hope you have a wonderful day and a productive and secure rest of your day. Don't forget that we are sending a reminder or the email with the recording and the slides, so watch your inbox for that. Thank you very much and have a great day.